the subject of painting your DeLorean front end, the suspension and the frame extension and things like that, has come up in one of the Facebook groups, and I have angered the poor 15 gods by having the temerity to suggest using Rustoleum, just ordinary Rustoleum brushed enamel from a can. Not this can, obviously, that's left over from when I painted the refrigerator, but the poor 15 aficionados. It's like a cult. These poor 15 people, there's only one possible product to use on the face of the planet in the history of mankind, and it's Poor 15. And if you do not use Poor 15, the world will end and your DeLorean will fall apart into 1,000 pieces. And no, everything I'm going to show you here was painted in 2009, the spring of 2009. So this paint job on both my suspension and the frame extension, like the shock towers and the top of the crumple extension and all, that is coming up on 15 years old. Okay, and it's got a few little nicks and dings here and there. I'll try to point them out as I see them, but as you can see, the paint job is dirty. It's filthy. I'm not one of the ones to get out here and scrub my DeLorean with a toothbrush, but this is just plain old Rustoleum from a can, available at Lowe's or Home Depot. This is obviously gloss black in the crumple extension. I'll take some video through the master cylinder access hatch so you can see it a little bit better. That's obviously smoke gray. And I do need to point out that the enamel from a can is a different formulation than a rattle can. Okay, a rattle can, if you read the MSDS, a rattle can is about 50% propellant and like 20 or 30% solvents. And so you've only got like 20% of that can is actual paint. And it's a funny formulation of paint because it has to be able to withstand the spraying process. This stuff here, if you read the MSDS, is somewhere between 25 and 50% paint thinner, mineral spirits. And then it's 0.1% of this and 0.1% of that, you know, xylene and some other aromatic thinners. But this can is about at least 50% paint, maybe as much as 70 to 75%. And that's why when you brush Rustoleum on, you know, it's like brushing on house paint. It flows, it dries, you know, with all this paint adhered to your surfaces. By the way, there's my cut spring. That came up in another conversation, was I'm a bad DeLorean owner because I cut my springs. I did that back in 2002. Okay, we're coming up on 2 decades of my cut springs. So something tells me that the people who are criticizing me and calling me funny names, they're a little bit late to the party. But let me go over and show you the other side, and then I'll show you some video through the master cylinder access hatch. Okay, here we are on the passenger side, and as you can see, my 15-year-old Rustoleum paint job is doing just fine. Once again, there's my cut spring, because I'm a bad DeLorean owner. And let me see if I can find some rock chips. Somewhere on here is going to be probably on the sway bar. Let me see if I can find some rock chips on the sway bar. There's a crack in the paint. There's got to be a rock chip on here somewhere. Somewhere on here is a rock chip. I haven't seen it yet. There's my shock tower. That is Rustoleum smoke gray. And everything else is obviously gloss black. I haven't seen any rock chips yet. They got to be on here somewhere. Okay, I didn't find anything on the suspension itself, but right here you can see where the top coat has been damaged by the jack stand at some point in the past, and it's broken off the enamel top coat, but underneath is the primer. You can still see I primed everything before I top coated it, and so the primer is still adhered no problem, and that's why there's no rust. See, there's no rust anywhere. I kind of lose patience with the naysayers that, you know, say that my DeLorean is some sort of a falling apart mess. I mean, it is a mess. It's dirty. I'm not going to lie to you. The stainless is lucky if it gets washed. And I'm certainly not going to wash the underside of the car. But that's the whole reason I painted it. See, that's my fuel tank closing plate, which I painted and drilled. See the drain holes? So I drilled drain holes in the closing plate to drain rainwater out of it. And here you can see the crumple extension with the smoke gray. And these are, of course, my aluminum side channels. But, you know, I lose patience with these persnickety DeLorean owners that are just like, somehow, because I don't wash my frame with a toothbrush, I'm a bad DeLorean owner. It may not be the prettiest DeLorean on the planet, but I'll be damned if it ain't reliable and rust-proof, or rust-free, I should say. Okay, as promised, this is what the frame extension looks like through the master cylinder access hole. What I did was any loose epoxy I removed, broke off, Then any surface rust I took down to bare metal, mostly with wire wheels. And then I primed everything, including the epoxy that was still adhered. I primed the entire frame extension and the shock towers. Went all the way back to the cross member, front cross member. And then I top coated it with the Rustoleum smoke gray, which is what you're seeing underneath the dirt. I readily admit my front end is very, very dirty, but you know that you're looking at years and years and years of road trips, coming up on 15 years of road trips. I have never washed the underside of my vehicle. You know, it's a underside that's supposed to be dirty. But while we're here, this is my Borgeson steering shaft. That's the vibration reducing U-joint. It's a viscous U-joint. It has a rubber isolator between the inner and the outer pieces. And you can see the safety rivets. Those two rivets there rivet the inner and outer pieces together, so that way it's like a fail-safe design. It cannot, even if the rubber was to deteriorate, the U-joint would still turn. It would just be wiggly. And of course it's stainless steel, so that's why it's not all rusty. And I got rid of the pipe sections to and from the radiator. I just run long lengths of hose. I've gotten rid of as many pipe sections as I could. And people have been complaining about their cooling hoses rubbing their steering shafts, which bamboozles me. I have more than a finger's worth of clearance here between the screw on the hose clamp. I mean, I can put 2 fingers between the steering shaft and my coolant pipe. So I'm not too sure why people are having all these problems with clearance, because I have bukus of clearance. But the subject at hand is what to do about painting your front end. And the purists and the arbiters of all things holy have gone crazy because I had the temerity to suggest using Rustoleum. But this is the Rustoleum paint job on my front frame extension. Some people call it the crumple extension. And let me show you one last time the shock towers. Alright, one last time. This is what the shock towers look like. All loose epoxy was removed from them and they were painted. And I believe I stopped here. I can't remember. I don't think I ran all the way back to the body tub. But that is a 15-year-old paint job. On the shock towers. And it's not Pour 15. It is just plain old Rustoleum brushed enamel over top of a proper automotive primer. But after everything is primed, that's what your paint job will look like with several decades of dirt.